Hey Mebane, my name is Aaron Davis, your Recreation and Parks Director, and today we're talking about parks maintenance. Did you know that Mebane has over 350 acres of parkland, which includes 7 parks and 4 pocket parks? Within these parks, we have many amenities, including 12 ball fields, 9 tennis courts, 5 playgrounds, and over 4 miles of trails and multi-use paths, and many, many more aesthetically pleasing things to do at our parks. As you all know, it all has to be maintained, groomed, inspected, looked after, and kept safe for use. My guest today is Shauna Joplin, Park Superintendent, and today she's going to tell us how our team maintains all of these wonderful parks. All right, Shauna, so you've been with the city for almost 8 months now and have been doing a fantastic job leading our team that maintains our beautiful parks here in Mebane. I've got some questions I'm going to ask you, and hopefully we can help educate the citizens on how we maintain these 350 acres of parkland.
Absolutely.
All right, we ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first question, with a team of just 4 full-time leaders and a few seasonal part-time leaders, how do you efficiently manage the maintenance of 350 acres of parkland?
We're very privileged to have a group of people working for us that are very, very experienced workers. They've been doing this for decades, and that allows them to foresee issues and not spend time on things that aren't going to work. They're very effective at planning their day efficiently, and they can also lead a team really well. They're all very good leaders and delegators. So between all of those things, we're extremely lucky to have such an experienced group of people working for us.
And they're leading, like especially right now in the summer, they're leading seasonal and part-time leaders who, you know, as I always say, we're all leaders, right?
Yeah, and they're also like always willing to help each other out. We are always willing to help each other out. We'll even be creative and ask other departments if they can help take some of the tasks. There's a lot of collaboration that has to go on between other departments within the city of Mebane. That's something that happens mostly with Public Works and Mebane PD. That's a very close collaboration. So there's also a lot of communication that happens.
Great, awesome. Okay, well, that's fantastic. Let's get into question number 2. So some of the amenities at the parks need specialized care. So can you tell us about the expertise that you and your team possess that allows you to keep them well maintained and safe for public use?
Yeah, so we have to have a couple certifications by law, and North Carolina requires anybody that's spraying any sort of pesticide. So a pesticide isn't just things that kill insects. That's something that we do have to use at parks as well, but it's also just herbicides. So weeds are considered a pest under North Carolina agriculture standards, and we have to hold a pesticide sprayer license. Myself and Chris Johnson both hold that license. That requires ongoing learning, so we do have to maintain those licenses by going to classes throughout the year. Another certification that we hold is a certified playground inspector certification. That's a national certification that allows us to inspect our playgrounds and make sure that they are being maintained in a way that's safe for the community. Now, those standards are always changing, so that certification also has to be renewed every 3 years. Cy Almond has gone through that certification twice now, and I did it for the first time this year, and I'm going to tell you, it is not an easy certification. There's a lot of standards that go into maintaining playgrounds.
Yeah, and to that point, like I see the reports that come through as we go through each playground, and it's pretty extensive information that I'm reading, and also, again, it helps us keep the playground safe for use. It's something we should be keeping up with every year, so it's really great that both of you have that certification.
Absolutely. We take that responsibility extremely seriously. Yeah. Another important aspect of what we do as a maintenance team is safety. I mean, we are the front line when it comes to catching anything that could possibly be unsafe at any of our facilities. So a good example of that is Keith Withers is over Kate's Farm and Lake Michael. And he is the person that's going to be out there fixing any sort of ruts in the trails. He's going to be letting us know if there's a tree that needs to be cut down by an arborist. Another example is Ray Sharp is over at the old recreation center. he's working with a 100-year-old building. So he's constantly having to make sure that the building is in good enough shape to have people in it doing light carpentry work and fixing railings and all kinds of things over at Youth and Walker as well.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, Shauna, question number 3. As mentioned in my last question and in your last answer, safety is a critical aspect of maintaining parks. So how does your team prioritize safety, and what measures do you take to ensure that facilities and parks are safe for visitors?
That's a great question. We do go over safety training through the city, so that's one part. That teaches us all kinds of things, but also just like having the experience to prevent problems from arising and keeping things up in a preventative way is really, really important, especially when you have a small team. Regular inspections, making sure you're keeping up with current standards, so making sure you're keeping up on your professional development and knowing what the current standards are. Those are all ways that we keep the park safe.
Good. That's fantastic. All right, moving on. Question 4. Parks are known for their natural beauty and scenic landscapes. How do you maintain the natural elements of the parks while also keeping them well-groomed and aesthetically pleasing, especially when Mother Nature plays a part in your daily schedule?
So we have different standards depending on what the use of the park is. We have a field right out here that is completely artificial turf, right? Yeah. So the standards of making sure that field doesn't have any weeds is going to be much, much higher than over at Lake Michael when you're out on the trail. So out on the trail at Lake Michael, we're not going to do spraying. We're not going to do anything that's going to disrupt the natural wildlife there. Wildlife is really important to us, and it's really important to the city of Mebane. So we want to make sure we're respecting that. One way that our team is going to contribute to that on a larger scale is we're working on an integrated pest management program. That means that we'll be using all different ways to control different kinds of pests throughout our park's facilities. And that means not just using things that are toxic to the environment. We're going to also just use ways that are a little bit more natural, a little bit more earth friendly, and that's going to help everybody stay a little bit healthier. One thing that I did want to show you guys today is I brought a friend. I brought a friend over from the lake. It is a amphibian. Now, amphibians are really great indicator species. If anybody in the community sees an amphibian at one of our parks, that means that land and that part of our community is extra healthy and extra clean. Amphibians, they absorbed everything through their skin that we're putting into the environment. So if we have any sort of toxins in the environment, those amphibians would not be able to thrive. So this is a toad that's native to North Carolina. So native to North Carolina just means it's naturally found in North Carolina. These are found all over the southeast. This is the eastern toad. And they're a great indicator species. Now, indicators, again, are a species that shows the health of the environment. If they show up in the environment, that means their environment is healthy. That means it's clean, and that means it's also clean for humans. Like, we want to make sure that we are creating and keeping clean spaces and healthy spaces for our future generations.
Okay. So he's a little guy.
Yeah.
Or gal, maybe.
Yeah.
Is this toad going to get bigger?
It is.
It full
so
size?
This guy's only about, I'd say, 1/5 of the size that he's going to get. So this is just, and you know what's so cute? They're called toadlets. When they're this small.
Toadlets are little.
Yep, they're called little baby toadlets.
So what's the difference between a toad and a frog?
It's a great question. So behind his head, behind his eyeballs, you can see there are two little, where did he go? Oh. Two little pillowy looking things. Now those are glands. Now toads tend to be a little bumpier, and they have those two little pillowy looking things. They spend a little bit more of their time on land. A lot of frogs will spend their time a little bit more close to the water. These guys are a little more terrestrial. They're not going to be, which means they're on land. They're not going to be up in the trees. And they're, again, the little bumpiness is something that tells you it's a toad. Those two little pillowy things are actually poison glands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you don't want to eat them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, you know, we have a lot of citizens that are out at Lake Michael, or I mean, toads and frogs. They can be all over the place at any of our parks, likely. So, what's the dangers and risks of handling or touching a toad or a frog?
Yeah, so like I said, they do have poison glands on them. Now, they're not deadly or anything, but you're not going to feel very well if you were to get that on your hands and then go eat your lunch at the park. Another risk, though, is actually for the animal. So if you have any lotion or anything on your hands, you could actually hurt the animal by touching it, because they do absorb everything into their skin. The best thing to do with any wildlife, though, is just to enjoy them with your eyes. Try not to disturb them too much, and let them be a joy to see for the next visitor. Make sure you're not disturbing them in a way where they're going to leave the park.
And certainly don't feed them human food, right?
Absolutely. Do not feed them human food. That's not something that is good for them at all.
All right, Shauna, next question. Weather conditions and seasonal changes can present unique challenges. How does your team adapt to those challenges to keep the parks in top shape year-round?
It's a great question. Our team has to keep a really close eye on the weather. It affects everything that we do. So we're working outside almost 100% of the time. And if a storm's coming in, that sometimes will keep us from being able to work in open areas if there's lightning involved. If the heat index goes up too high, we have to make sure everybody's staying hydrated, especially if we're managing our seasonal workers. That's a big responsibility, is making sure that our supervisors can tell if any of the seasonal workers are pushing a little bit too hard. We want to make sure everybody's taking breaks and drinking enough water. It affects how much we're watering. Out in our sports field, sometimes the turf needs to be watered a little bit less if there's lots of rain, a little bit more if there's more rain. And these are all things that our team has to make sure we're planning day to day, and we're also able to adjust last minute.
Yeah, I can think of situations over the years where we know that severe weather is coming, and myself, with you and your team, you know, we stop working and we start preparing for, okay, how can we keep this tarp from blowing away in the wind, or what do we have to move so that it doesn't float away, things like that. So there is a lot that goes into that. We appreciate all the work you do, especially having to change your schedule so quickly sometimes.
We also have features like the splash pad that Cy Almond has to make sure is winterized every winter before a hard freeze, and there's restrooms that need to be winterized as well before a hard freeze. So we're just keeping a close eye on the weather at all times, pretty much.
Great, that's wonderful. Next question. How does the work of the park maintenance team extend beyond the parks, and how does it positively impact the overall well-being of the citizens and residents of Mebane?
So there's been a lot of studies recently on how important parks are, and open spaces and green spaces are to the mental health and well-being of the mental and physical health and well-being of communities. And I think our parks being in such great condition is a reflection of the community. And I do think that the community takes pride in having such beautiful parks in so many fantastic facilities.
Okay, so last question. How can citizens get involved, and how can they contact you with questions, photos, or other ideas about the parks?
Yeah, so one thing that I absolutely love doing is helping to identify wildlife. If they see anything in one of our parks, an insect or a snake or anything like that, I would love to know about it. So if they want to contact me about that, we'll make sure that my email address is posted with this video. I also want to hear about any concerns you have. If you have any concerns you want to let me know about, please do. And also, if anybody went above and beyond for you, that's something that is also really important for me to know. I love hearing stories about successful interactions, or somebody that just went above and beyond the call of duty for you.
Yeah. All right, Mebane. So now that you know more about how we keep our parks beautiful and safe for all of you citizens, let's give a big thank you to our parks team for their dedication to keeping our parks looking great. So Mebanites, keep enjoying the aesthetics of our parks and follow us on social media for park project updates and more information about our Recreation and Parks Department. I want to encourage you to find those hardworking Parks Operation Maintenance Supervisors and make sure that you thank them for their service to the citizens of Mebane. They sure do work hard and keep our parks looking great. Thank you for watching and have a positively charming day.